Hello, it's Fulhamish podcast, your seminal guide to the razzmatazz of Fulham's promotion push. This weekend saw the end of Fulham's main performance, with the encore ready to start in under a week's time against Reading in the playoff semi-final. But who will end up with their name in lights in the big Wembley final? I'm Sammy James, your host for tonight's episode, or should I say MC for tonight's episode. And I have two showstoppers on tonight's podcast, Jack Collins and Ben Jarman. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Hello, listeners.
Hello, listeners. I'm also very well, thanks.
We don't know if Don Betts is going to be turning up today. He potentially is en route, but it was his final uni dissertation hand-in, so I think he's been a bit preoccupied today, despite, obviously, Fulham's impending playoff run. I think he's had a few other things on his mind.
Well, yesterday wasn't an away day, so Don might not be home yet.
Exactly. Well, it was the end of the regular season. The 46 games are over, but fortunately for Fulham, there are 2, maybe 3 more games left in this season, and how exciting it is. Yesterday, we went up to Hillsborough. Looked to be such a big game. When we looked at it maybe a month ago, looked to be a huge crunch match between 2 playoff chasing sides. In the end, it was the Leeds have screwed it up playoff party. And we all had a jolly good time, and Fulham won 2-1 thanks to a brace from Niskins Cabano. Jack, what were the 3-word reviews for yesterday's performance, please?
A lot of quite good ones, actually.
Oh, nice.
White Noise, foreplay, all done. A bloke called Farrell Monk.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Royalty points required, which I thought was actually quite clever.
Well done, Farrell.
Nick,
Good for you, Farrell.
at Blame Draymond, friend of the pod. Lord Ryan Tunnicliffe, extra special friend of the pod after that. And Jake Kelly with handball, which was enjoyable. Cabana Rama at the FFC fan says Jack J. Collins is sound.
Yes, Jack met another one of his fans yesterday.
I don't know where these people get a picture that this guy's actually sound. If
I don't know.
In real life like we do, you'd know it's completely the opposite.
I'm actually a really lovely man.
I've just gone too far down with Jack on this podcast. I can't not have you on now.
Yeah, you've put yourself way in the mire. Yeah. You can't get rid of me now.
So, unfortunately, I did spend a lot of time yesterday with Jack J. Collins. Went up to Hillsborough on the train, on the Doncaster train. There were lots of Fulham fans on there. And as I said, the regular season is over. But Jack, the crunch time starts now.
Yeah, it's about, now it's about making it count and making it work in where it's crunch time. And, we've seen Fulham provide many an enjoyable experience this season, but actually it's come to the crunch now. And we've also seen that when it comes to a moment of when Fulham can bottle it, it has happened before. And what we would like is for that not to happen and to banish the memories of Atletico Madrid.
We'd like not to be, as Rachel Riley described Spurs on Friday, bottle jobs. Did you see that?
Yeah, a bit mad. She's got quite a lot of abuse, though. I think that maybe she probably didn't deserve that. I think she was trying to make a point rather than, get aggy.
Yeah, she maybe could have chosen wiser, her words, but yeah, I don't think the abuse was quite warranted. Ben, it was a really convincing victory yesterday. It was an in-form Sheffield Wednesday side. They'd won their past 6 going into it, but they had made 10 changes. Does that make yesterday's win irrelevant?
Yes and no. I think, yes, in the fact that obviously we're not against their first 11, which is more dangerous, naturally more dangerous than the reserve team. And their first 11 has got them to the point where they currently are now the most informed team in the playoffs. Probably the most dangerous side in the playoffs as well, aside from us. But also, on the other hand, it's really nice to look at the fact that we've got a win over what is essentially a promotion rival. And I think in the way that we've done it as well, with 653 passes completed out of 700 attempted.
Wow.
That's some sort of domination. And on a pitch as big as Hillsborough, it's a really good indication for should we get to Wembley.
What did we make of Fulham's side yesterday? We know that Carlos Carvajal made 10 changes to the Wednesday side, but Slav made some changes as well. And we were talking on the train about it. We agreed with pretty much every one of them that he did make yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. I think that we put in our preview that we thought there was going to be a lot of changes rung, especially at right back, which we were all kind of expecting. I loved that he put Piazon in the 10. I really enjoyed seeing that experiment, and I think it worked quite well. which was a new one, and Cabano came in and obviously did all the bits. And contrary to popular belief, I thought Chris Martin did all right up front, and there was a lot of people giving him grief. He did miss an absolute sitter, but he was offside. But there's a lot of people giving him grief. I thought he did all right. Nothing, too spectacular or
he looks a little off the
beating.
pace.
Yeah, a little off the pace, but held the ball up well when required, and did all right for me up front. So I think that we can be pleased with that. I liked Tom Kearney a little bit deeper. I thought that was interesting.
I also like Piazon in that 10 role. I think his style differs so much from Kearney's that it's really hard to compare the two. In that role, Piazon sort of seems to be an all-action, legs everywhere sort of 10, whereas Kearney's sort of more languid, looks for the space, is a bit more agile 10. Obviously loved the introduction of Cabano. I think he's as good as any wide player we've got out there, and it's such a luxury that we have someone of that quality on the bench. And as Jack says, having TC back that far was a really nice eye-opener. We kept possession astoundingly well just because of the way he played and the position he found himself in consistently. And when they went down to 10, having Kenny in that position already and bedded in sort of really helped our cause. It's something that we've seen a few times when teams have really hunkered down and put 10 men behind the ball against us. We sort of drop him a bit deeper to orchestrate, and it kind of worked even against 11. So obviously it's a very big positive, and perhaps something that Jokanovic could look to do in those playoffs should we need it. But arguably the most important player of the season was missing yesterday in our Norwegian god.
Indeed, but probably a well-earned rest for Steph Joe. He had that injury scare against Huddersfield. He came back for the Brentford game, but probably just safest to leave him on the bench when not really that much mattered yesterday.
In that Brentford game, he looked slightly jaded and a little bit off the pace, so I thought it was a good decision to drop him. I think that we look a worse side without Steph in the team, and even though Kearney was very good yesterday, and it's a nice option and a nice sort of something that we can play on if we need to, but it's good that Steph's had some time off now, as with Ryan Fredericks, and I think that you'll see that, Dennis Odoi played well there as well, but I think that ultimately both of those players will come in and retain their places for the playoff push. I
think if yesterday showed anything, it's a case of we go really sort of negative, well not negative, but a lot more static when Johansson's out the team, just because he's that amazing connector between midfield and the forward line, and he just covers so much ground that it gives us a whole new dimension to the way we play.
I quite liked in the second half when Sheffield Wednesday went down to 10, Kevin McDonald having a bit more freedom in the centre of the park. We saw him getting up the pitch a little bit more.
Yeah, a bit of an interesting one for Kev. I enjoyed his lung-busting run down the right-hand channel at one point. That was a highlight of the day for me. He was, he looked to open things up and to have a little bit more creative influence, and especially in a game with nothing riding on it, it's nice to see that option is available and it's something he's generally considering. So, it's just another dimension and another prong, if we need it, to the Fulham kind of attacking prowess.
When I first saw K-Mac play, I hadn't seen him too much prior to the game against Newcastle, and I thought, who is this sort of lumbering, really weirdly shaped person that we've managed to buy over the summer, and was totally taken aback by how technically brilliant he is and how he reads the game. And he's actually, for a man that looks like he's lumbering about everywhere, he's actually quite mobile and actually deceptively quite quick. So what a revelation he's been on the whole as well.
I remember early on in the season when he started really getting into the side, and I must admit I wasn't the biggest fan of K-Mac straight from the off, and my dad in particular thought he was awful for 2 to 3 games. But now he's changed the opinion on... I changed my opinion quite quickly, but my dad took a little bit longer, but now my dad really rates him. He sees what Kevin McDonald does. It actually does sometimes take a little bit more watching Kevin McDonald to really know and understand his role in the side and the sheer importance of it.
Yeah, his role got simplified as well after those opening 4, 5, maybe 6 games. He went from playing that 2-person pivot to just having a one-person pivot in there, and it just... I think he tried to give McDonald too much to do. He, being Jokanovic, obviously tried to give McDonald too much to do, tried to make him run forward and get those long bursting runs that Johansson now does, but also wanted him to do the defensive side of the work in tandem with Scott Parker. And if anything, it just made us really static and really predictable, because none of them could do what Jokanovic wanted. And now the removal of Parker and the addition of Steph Joe just changed us completely. It's horrible to hear that obviously Parker's now coming into his final few games, but he's been such a good servant.
Well, amazing for Scott Parker yesterday. He came on late into the second half, got an amazing ovation from the 3,000 Fulham fans. It was a really impressive travelling support yesterday up at Hillsborough, especially being a midday kickoff. And within 30 seconds of Scott Parker crossing the white line, Neeskens had bundled it into the nets. Just much influence.
Just his influence scared Sheffield Wednesday into putting the ball towards their own goal. I'm still not sure it's a Cabano goal. I've watched the replay about 20 million times today, and I'm just not sure. I think it comes off a Wednesday player last.
Can we clear it up, though? Because I've seen
got a photo.
I can clear it up. It was not Neeskens' handball.
No, it's not.
No.
I also have a photo of it.
Okay.
That doesn't come off a Sheffield Wednesday player.
Bit weird to talk about the second goal first. We normally like to keep things very ordered here on Fulhamish. But Neeskens loves a dubious goal, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He really does. He's famed for putting them in off other people. I think all of his goals seem to hit someone. So
Well, there was the Dan Burn one against Wigan.
One against Forest.
And the one against Forest
that
as well.
didn't go down as his goal, did it?
No.
That was actually an own goal.
That was naturally an own goal. But that's Neeskens' 6th of the season, including also his first against Wednesday. That means now
including his goal against Leeds in this.
No. So technically, he could have had actually 8 goals if you'd included the one against Leeds that went across the line. And I think it was a little bit harsh not to give him the one against Forest. I know it was a big deflection. But it now means that 9 players have scored at least 5 goals this season.
Yeah, it's great. And, we've talked about this before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. It's just brilliant that we have goals from everywhere. And especially with the lack of a kind of 20-goal striker, which everyone says that you need to be achieving the top levels at this level. I think that it's nice that our goals come from everywhere, and it makes us extremely hard to play against. And defenders are confused when they play us because there's so much overloading going on that they don't know who to mark. And it gets to that point where I think we just overload teams so much that eventually the ball's going to fall to a white or red shirt in the area, and that'll be that.
I think we're at such a big advantage because our wide players definitely know how to put the ball in the back of the net as well. I mean, Cabano, who's been, unfortunately, some may say a bit part player for this year, has weighed in with that many goals is really positive. But we talked about Borough last season. Their top scorer was on something like 9 goals, and I think that was Stu Arney. Their main striker barely even registered last year, and they went up and they were still playing really exciting football. But we're the top scorers in the league with 85 goals. We're playing some amazing football right now. And we're just, for want of a better word, we're quite blessed with the talents we have at hand, especially in wide and forward positions.
#blessed.
Blessed.
Going back to the beginning of the game then, just having a look at the action. I know there wasn't too much riding on the game yesterday, but we might as well go back and analyse it.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday took the lead through ex-Barnsley man Sam Winnell, who had a storming start to the season with Barnsley, signed for Sheffield Wednesday in January, and a signing that I think all of us would have been very happy to have made, but he went and joined the attacking prowess of Sheffield Wednesday. A little bit of poor from Callas, though, to lose the ball in such a vulnerable position, but then maybe a bit shaky defending from Tim Ream at the same time, not to close him down a bit more.
It's a really rogue move from Callas. And, I know we're a ball-playing team and everyone likes to have the ball at their feet, but, it's quite unlike him to go on he does reckless things, but not normally like that. And it was a bit of a strange decision to go sort of barnstorming into the Wednesday half after 10 minutes. So an odd one. It was a good finish, though.
He was trying to do his version of prime Rio Ferdinand. If you remember when he was playing back at the top of his game when he was captain in United, everyone was talking about how he should have been a midfield player because he was so good with the ball. But Callas was just doing his version of him, and unfortunately
ran into Kieran Lee.
Unfortunately wasn't as good. But yeah, as Jack says, it's a great finish. And if we're going to talk about slightly erratic defending, can we just quickly have 30 seconds to discuss how Scott Malone ran across his own box with the football whilst trying to clear?
Scott Malone literally taking the mick out of Wednesday after at 1-1 away from home.
It was quite mad though, but I think Scott Malone's always got that in the locker, just somehow pulling off the incredible, but you're not sure how.
It actually turned into quite a good bit of play. It was obviously extremely erratic, but actually taking the ball away and getting it out there was actually quite a sensible manoeuvre by the end of it. Obviously it wouldn't have gone down well if it had gone wrong, but at the same time, it didn't.
I mean, he must have been watching videos of Napoli trying to play it out of their own box in like passing sequences, because he's clearly inspired by someone, and it's not going to be us the way we defended over the last couple of years.
I think the podcast sounds a lot better to synthy Euro pop.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should add this in as a permanent feature.
Exactly.
That can be our new opening tune.
Oh, dear.
For next season, I'm still looking for contenders for next year's theme.
I think we keep it as is.
Well, I think if you've got any suggestions, listeners, then send them on in. If you've written us who wants to write us a song? There we are.
I like the
us, pod@fulhamish.co.uk.
I love the jazz theme, but you got to change things up from time to time, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to keep it fresh, keep it real.
And then on the stroke of half-time, obviously Fulham then got the equaliser. Nice play from Dennis Adoy, and then a good finish from Cabano. Probably the key moment of the match, though, was Matthias being sent off for Wednesday. Missed by Jack and I, as we were too busy fighting the crowds to try and get half-time Fosters.
Shock.
But yeah, Matthias sent off for a fairly cynical foul on Sonny Aluko. Carlos Carvajal actually thought it was a harsh red card. I can't see him having any complaints, really. He hacked him down.
I can't see any complaints either. It's from behind, and clearly, if you look at the highlight, like, Aluko's just mugged him off completely, and the look on his face when he takes him up from behind is one of pure anger.
Yeah, pure malice.
It's like pure malice. He's jumped in from behind. Both feet are off the floor, I think. It's a definite red.
Even if it's not a red card challenge, it's the kind of intent that he's gone in there, and there's absolutely zero attempt to play the ball. And, you know, that's also in an important game with important games coming up. It's the kind of challenge that could really hurt someone. And if you're doing that cynically with no attempt to try and even look like you're playing the ball, I don't think that there's any complaints at all. It's not a nice challenge. He's gone there to try and hack him down after being mugged off, and I think that's as simple as that. You can't do that on a football pitch.
I think if we go back to Adoy as well, if you don't mind me doing that for a couple of seconds, like, the fact that he has barely played this season is really a testament to how well Fredericks has done when he's come back in, and how undroppable he's been over the past sort of like 20, 25 games, and the amount that he adds to the squad is unbelievable. But yeah, Adoy, when he's needed to, has been absolutely amazing when he's come on, and he's given us some real attacking threat, looked really solid defensively as well, and what can we say for that back skill that he done against Newcastle? I mean, that was incredible in the very least. But
Do it again, Dennis.
There's a video of him on the Fulham FC Facebook of him talking about the back thing today. I was thinking, God, he really is still dining out on the back thing.
Yeah, but the thing is, he really downplays it. He was like, yeah, obviously I've done my little skill.
My little back thing. He is the suavest man in the Fulham team, I think.
He's such a hipster.
He comes to training on the bike.
Fixie.
Fixie with one gear and some nice turtle spectacles.
He's the Moritz Volts of the 2010s.
Dennis Adoy definitely hangs out in like cafes that used to be warehouses in Dalston.
Definitely. Definitely does.
And wears similar clothes to Jack Collins.
That's not true or nice.
His house is definitely powered by solar panels as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know he is. Only drinks green tea.
So all the results then yesterday meant that Fulham definitely booked their place in the playoffs. I listened back to last week's episode, and the amount of times I had to say pretty much we're in the playoffs. The amount of times I had to put the disclaimers in there just in case Leeds did the 14-goal swing. But it was all looking fairly unlikely because we were given a hand from a current Fulham man, Ryan Tunnicliffe.
What a legend.
Getting in on the action.
I enjoyed singing the Ryan Tunnicliffe song again. That came out quietly, and we all had a good old time. We enjoyed ourselves. And Ryan Tunnicliffe, what a man. Still doing bits. It's a great goal. You've seen it?
No.
He goes round the keeper. He mugs him off. I was like,
couldn't happen to a nicer team, could it?
Exactly. It was also Rob Green, or his time wasting has become one of my least favourite people in the entire world. And for Tunners to go around him, of all people, imagine if you were playing and Ryan Tunnicliffe went round you, you'd be like, just retire.
It's a bad day.
Being done by the fat guy on 11-a-side at the weekend, isn't it?
Bad day at the office. And then the other results from the playoff chasing teams, obviously Sheffield Wednesday lost to us, but Huddersfield missed the chance to leapfrog them. A really poor 3-0 defeat at home to Cardiff, who weren't playing for anything. I think Huddersfield might live to regret that, because that second leg at home would have been a huge advantage, and to have that second leg at Hillsborough, it's going to be really, really tricky for them.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult place to go now. It'll be packed and it'll be a full-on sellout, and they make a lot of noise Sheffield Wednesday for the whole game pretty much. And I know it was a game where it was a bit of a party and nothing was really riding in it, but they made a fair bit of noise. And
they sing this loud. Steffi Hansen.
I did enjoy that at the start of the game, and everyone's sort of looking at me like, "Why are you singing along with their song?" And I'm like, "Well, I know what's coming."
A few people did turn around and laugh when you shouted Steffi Hansen. I shouted Steffi Hansen with you.
Yeah, we had a good time. Everyone enjoyed themselves. Oh, Sheffield Wednesday hate the flag. They didn't let the flag in. So that was
Rightly
disappointing. So. I had to put it in a little storehouse outside.
Speaking of flags, did you see that brilliant flag that a Fulham fan took in yesterday? It was some ballot check boxes.
May, Corbyn or Slavisa.
And he's obviously ticked Slavisa.
Yeah, well, if you want to see it, it's on our Twitter page, so have a look there. It is a really good flag, so shouts out to whoever made that.
Twitter.com/Fulhamish pod. And then Reading went up to Burton Albion, who Jack said many times last week are already on the beach, and turns out they were. But didn't get it all their own way, Reading. They sailed into quite a comfortable lead. Burton got it back to 3-2, but then Reading did get a fourth goal, and they've sealed that third place spot. In fact, because Sheffield Wednesday nor Huddersfield did win, that meant that it was all academic anyway, and Reading would have finished in third place. So we have a third trip to the Medeski Stadium this season. How excited are you about that?
I'm so excited. I cannot wait to go to the Madstad again.
This is something I found out earlier, that they call it the Madstad. We'll go more into the Reading game in detail on Thursday's podcast. We're doing a Fulhamish extra, which is very, very, very exciting. We're going to hopefully actually be live from Craven Cottage, Jack and I, doing some bits. We're speaking to Ali from the Not the Top 20 podcast, who really, really knows his stuff when it comes to the Football League. We'll also be speaking to a Reading fan and hopefully some Fulham fans. It's going to be a really interesting show, hopefully. So you'll see that coming into your feeds on Thursday. Now, the reason I found out about the Medeski Stadium being called the Madstad is earlier I was on BBC Berkshire. I know, drop that
Name
mic.
drop.
Big time.
I know. I was with two geezers called, one was called Andrew and the other was called Tim. I think Tim is quite a famous correspondent in the Reading world. And I think they were trying to wind me up a little bit. They kept just twisting the knife a little bit, and they said, "Oh, well, our record at the Madstad is great." And I was like, "The Madstad? Really?" They are very upset that no one's giving them the credit they deserve in this playoff charge. I don't really know why people are getting so bothered, and Sheffield Wednesday are kind of the same. Like, why is everyone talking about Fulham? I'm actually not sure I really want all the attention on Fulham.
Well, it's interesting. Everyone seems to want to be the underdogs. And I think that's obviously something that's really crucial, because then it feels like you're not always on top. And I think that Fulham and Wednesday are probably favourites but for a reason. And it's because effectively they're the two teams who have played the best football out of the four, notwithstanding Huddersfield's sort of late collapse. And I think that makes it quite easy for people to talk about Fulham and Wednesday as kind of like straight in shoe-ins. But, there's going to be a lot of people out to spoil the party, namely Reading and Huddersfield. But it looks like, I think I'd like it if I was a Reading fan that everyone was talking about Fulham. I'd be very excited and I'd want it to go that way, that no one had any pressure on us, and our boys were playing with absolutely no fear, because it was like, well, if we lose to Fulham, everyone's saying, oh, they're the best team anyway.
And just joining us in the studio now, Dom Betts has arrived, handed in his final uni piece. Congratulations, sir. Big day.
Yeah, massive day. Huge day. Probably should have done it before this weekend. That probably would have been the best of ideas. But, I got it in the end, and, last ever uni assignment handed in.
Completed it, mate.
Completed it, mate.
How was your weekend?
Saturday and Sunday were interesting. It took me till about today to sort of recover from Saturday night, but overall great weekend. Got to say, Sheffield's probably my favourite Northern night out.
It's good. I'd say Leeds gives it a run for its money.
Newcastle.
The problem is, whenever I've been to Leeds on like a Tuesday night, it's been when students aren't there.
Right, okay.
So it's a bit of a different night out. But yeah, no, Sheffield, having walkabout next to Pop World is one of the greatest things that's ever happened.
Well done to the Sheffield town planners for getting that so right.
There we are.
Tom, Jack was just saying before you arrived about how Reading fans should be happy that they seem to be the underdogs in this playoff fight. They might actually have some mental advantage by not being too overestimated in the playoff debate. What do you think is the better? What do you think is the better mental position to have? Do you want to be like full of confidence, almost say the danger of being overconfident, or is maybe just being the dark horses a better way to be?
I don't think it really matters, really, going into the playoffs. I think it's not like the whole season's pretty much irrelevant. As I think Cabano said in his interview on Fulham FC TV, that it's basically just a cup semi-final now. So however you've played over the season, they're third in the league. So although they're underdogs, they'll probably be expecting to get a good result, but then they can look back and they lost 5-0 at Craven Cottage, and I guarantee they do not want to repeat that on Saturday evening or Saturday afternoon. So I don't think it really matters whether you're an underdog or whether you look like you're the favourite, because it's the playoffs and everyone knows anything can happen to the playoffs. Because I wouldn't exactly say Sheffield Wednesday last season were massive underdogs going into it. They were the form team going into the playoffs, and they got to the final, and obviously they got beaten by an absolute wonder strike by Mo Diarmé in the final. So I don't think even mindset actually really matters going into the playoffs.
And it's going to be a bit of a scrabble to get tickets. That seems to be the theme of the day online. Looks like it's easy enough to get yourself a home ticket, but only 2,000 attending the Medeski. The key question is, Don Betts, will you be one of them?
Might have to.
Oh, he's gone back on his word.
Yeah, but I just can get a ticket because 850, or 845 loyalty points for me. So.
Jeez, guaranteed.
Yeah, I just got to remember to buy it tomorrow. Just need to remember to do that.
So are we clear on the rules? It is one each?
Yeah, it's one per season ticket holder.
Fair enough.
And I think anything under, 500 loyalty points is looking difficult.
Well, I reckon they're expecting it to sell out by Friday, and then they'll know it will definitely sell out on Saturday. I think that's the way they've seen it.
Apparently they've got 2,000 season ticket holders on the database with over 500 loyalty points already. So it should, in theory, sell out before it even gets to anywhere near general sale.
But that's if every season ticket holder that has over 500 loyalty points buys a ticket, which I guess Tuesday night away from home is not always guaranteed. But
And there's obviously been some great arguments on the Fulham Facebook page this afternoon. Some of them are absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
I think
there's
someone
some
argued
really odd
that
things going on there.
all season ticket holders, no matter how many loyalty points you have, should be the first priority. I didn't understand the point in that. I mean, a lot of people are arguing that a lot of away fans who go to a lot of away games don't buy the tickets through the club. They might buy it on the gate at the game, and obviously that doesn't count. So there's people who don't have a membership or may have a membership and not a season ticket and have gone to like maybe 20 away games this season, but obviously sometimes it's last minute and they bought it on the gate and it's just an issue there. But I think there's no correct way of doing it. The loyalty point system is the way it's used is good, but the way some of the points are allocated are sometimes quite strange, because I think if you've got a season ticket, every home game should just be the same amount of loyalty points, and then the away games are the ones that vary. So a Tuesday night in Hull last season, let's say, that should be like the 5 loyalty points, and then obviously the Readings and the Brentfords, if they're on a Saturday, should be like the 2 points. But yeah, no one's ever going to be happy with.
There's no way of pleasing everyone when you get a situation where 5,000 people want to go to a game where there's 2,000 in tickets. At the end of the day, there's going to be 3,000 people disappointed. Most will take it on the chin and just say, unfortunately, things didn't work out. But you're always going to get a minority that will find ways to voice their displeasure.
And if we win 5-0 at home again, people probably just end up selling their away tickets again.
I think it's important that, when you look at it, and it's not. This isn't saying, I don't think I'm probably not going to get a ticket in terms of, just don't think it's going to get to the level where I am. And obviously that's sad for me, but also at the same time, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, people that go away more than me shouldn't have that priority, because that's literally it's about if you can demonstrate that you've done that. And there's a lot of people saying, oh, I used to go a lot. I mean, I don't think that kind of matters. At the end of the day, it's the people that have gone, season after season, have those points and memberships, and it makes sense. And at the end of the day, I'd like to be at the Majeski. If I can't, it's on telly.
Like a 3-year period or something like that.
Yeah.
And so if you've gone to all these games when we've been rubbish in the last 2 years, surely you're more worthy than someone who's just gone to a lot of games this season while we're doing well. I mean, Yeah,
think,
as we
of
said,
course.
there is literally nothing that's going to please every
Yeah, of
single
course.
person, because every single person wants a ticket.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it comes at the end of the day that you've got to just accept that if you're not one of those people that gets one, and we're all trying, we're all going to try, and we'd all like to be there. But if it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off. And we'll watch it. I'm sure. Me and Sam were discussing earlier. There's probably going to be a beam back at the cottage. There'll be things going on.
It's
And
on Sky anyway.
yeah, exactly.
If not, Jack's back garden,
Yeah.
set up a barbecue.
Exactly.
We'll all have a lovely time.
We'll have a really nice time. For
See
everyone
you there.
involved. Yeah, all round to mine.
So we will touch a lot more on the Reading versus Fulham game, the playoff semi-final, on Thursday's Fulhamish Extra,
Special edition.
which myself, Jack, and potentially Don Betts
Yeah, I should be fine.
should be involved with on Thursday. Ben's too busy flying high, making deals.
Making dollars,
Making
making
deal.
dreams.
Well, there we go.
But yeah, there'll be lots more about the impending playoff games. But we've got lots of questions to get through between now and the end of the podcast. So Jack is just currently firing up the post bag as we speak. What's coming in, Jack?
We've got a pretty basic one to begin with. Chris Martin to start against Reading, yes or no?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I would be tempted to say yes. He was, before the Ipswich game and stuff like that, we all said in this podcast how we think he is one of the most important players in the Fulham side. I know how well we've done without him, but and especially given his performance in the 5-0 game against Reading at Craven Cottage earlier in the season, I would personally go with him. On the flip side, I don't know how gutted I would be if he wasn't. I wouldn't be throwing away my ticket and
I'm saying
leaving
no
the ground.
purely because since his suspension, we've been forced to play that strikerless system. We're really moving now in a forward direction with it. We're looking really comfortable with it. I think the fluidness of the front 4-5 really makes it hard for other teams to defend against. So much pace, a lot of power, and a lot of ability to put the ball in the back of the net is going to be really hard for Reading to defend against. I think Martin looked a little bit off the pace, so maybe we can use him as a sort of like 75, 80 minutes, chuck on, hold the ball up. Maybe.
Yeah, I said, obviously Reading are a footballing side like us, they like to have the ball. I don't think he's as important as he would be against maybe a team like Sheffield Wednesday if he were playing their first string side. And also I thought that he wasn't exactly that great against Sheffield Wednesday. And I just want to get Cabano in the side, and if that means taking out Martin, getting him in,
Keep
it'll
Cabano.
be fine.
Keep Cabano. That question was from Lawrence Peterman at Lowellboy SW6, so we didn't name check him. So
Cheers, Lawrence.
Shouts out to you, Lawrence.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Tom Deasy at TomDees36 says, if Fulham were to go up to the Premier League this season, where do you think we would finish? I'm not sure if he means if we were going up, where would we finish next season, or if this Fulham side was in the Premier League now.
I think he means
Next
if we
season.
go up, next
Suppose
season, where do we
completely
finish?
depends on recruitment, I guess, but
And it completely depends on how the other teams decide to play. I mean,
open the floor to Don Betts.
I mean, like if we were in the Premier League this season, I think we'd be. I can't remember who made a poll about it. Someone did about where we'd finish. Probably Miles, because he loves
Miles loves a
he
poll,
loves a
yeah.
good poll. I said 10 to 15th just because I think the teams at the bottom are absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
Like
There are some really poor teams.
I would agree. I think they touched on it on Match of the Day last night as well, but this is something that I've always been thinking about this season, is that the intensity of the way we currently play right now probably outstrips a lot of what the Premier League teams can play out right at this moment in time. Look at someone like Sunderland who barely kept pace with most of the teams throughout the whole of the year. And then there's some teams down the bottom that really play some dire, dreadful, defensively minded football, and the way we come up and the way we play, we could pick up some really good results. And I think obviously the game against Spurs was a little bit of an eye opener, but they're an elite team now. There's no getting away from that. But we could
Bottle
easily
jobs.
the bottle jobs. Yeah, we could easily take points from anyone on our day, just because of how open, expansive, and quick we are.
Well, it was a second string side against. It was sort of not a second string whole side, but it was still a decent outfit that you wouldn't be surprised if most of those players played in the Premier League, and we just took them to pieces and won 4-1.
Yeah.
So I mean, there wouldn't be this season no reason why we wouldn't finish mid-table. But next season, if we were to go up, as Jack said, it's all about the recruitment process, and it's been proved to be a success this season, bar the January loan signings of Sirik and Petsos, which seem a bit pointless anyway. But I mean, they haven't really been bad. They haven't really had anything to prove. But Yeah, if we continue the recruitment process with Craig Klein and what Tony Khan have done this season, there's no reason why we just couldn't comfortably stay up next season, get to the 40 points around like April, March. Basically what Burnley have done this season, really.
Yeah.
Just be formidable at home, which we haven't this season, and somehow keep up a decent away record like we have this season, because I'm pretty sure I've seen more away wins this year than I have any ever.
In relation to this point, I remembered a question we got in a couple of days ago, which is very much on this kind of thing, from Lawrence Craven, who said, are we confident that if promoted, our recruitment will provide enough depth in our squad that can play the Ivanovic way? I said we had no data to prove anything otherwise. Like, we've got to believe in the system we have.
Yeah, I even said it when everyone started complaining about it in September. I was like, I don't understand why you're complaining about a recruitment process, because it was obviously still in August and we were still unbeaten. I was like, there's no signing that's been made so far that has been a bad signing. And there was the whole debacle of Ivanovic wanted that Man United youngster, but how do we know he would have been any good in our system?
Not at all.
Well, he hasn't been very good for Granada this season at all. So I think there's justification there, albeit that he is playing in the Primera or La Liga, but that is a step above where we are. But I'm not sure he would have fitted in either, because he's not a 10 and he's not a wide player. He's somewhere in between, and he's not been great this season, as I said. So I think it's a good thing that we sort of missed out on him.
What's his name again, just for context?
Andres Pereira.
Andres Pereira.
Yeah, so I do feel like if we got up there, then we would buy the players that needed to play this way and that would have the sufficient quality, sufficient experience as well. I think half of it comes from the fact that a lot of the players that we were signing, a lot of our fans probably hadn't heard of prior to them being linked to the club and or signing. I mean, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I know a fair bit about foreign football, as does Dom, but I'd never really heard of Cabano. I'd only heard of Aite in the last year or so.
Yeah, the only reason I'd heard of Aite because he was on a stat of who scored the most weak-footed goals in the top 5 European leagues.
It was a squawker thing, wasn't it?
That was the only reason I'd heard of him. Cabano I'd only heard of because he had a team season card on FIFA one year.
Yeah, and the only reason I'd heard of him is because he won Academy Young Player of the Year in PSG miles ago. But you still think about Cabano, he's only just turned 24 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of the key players who he signed, the only ones people who have known of who obviously weren't from the English league would have been Stefan Johansson from Celtic.
Even then, I hadn't really heard of him.
I mean, Adoy I knew of because he'd played for quite a few Belgian teams.
Yeah, I'd heard of Adoy.
He'd do bits at right back and left back. But apart from that, it's better signing players that fans don't know about, I think, because there's no... fans won't have preconceptions of these players. They'll just look at them from a clean slate. Whereas if we're signing these players from fellow English teams, you're going to think about that and how I've seen him play this well here. Whereas if you watch Aite, Cabano or whatever, you just watch a YouTube video and you don't actually know about the player or how well they can play.
It's interesting because when we were in January, there was a lot of grief about the fact that we hadn't signed a striker. We need to sign a striker. We need to sign a striker. And then we signed a striker, and like you said earlier, he's not really been part of anything. And it goes to show that a lot of that noise and blasting from people being like, oh, we haven't got enough squad depth, we haven't got enough, and we've said it at parts that the squad's small and it's a very tight-knit group, but that's worked for us this year. But we hear a lot of shouting about people being like, oh, we haven't done this, we've bottled it because we haven't bought a striker, and then the one time we do bring in hasn't featured, and you start to think maybe we should shut up and listen rather than making all the noise.
On the other hand, though, I still believe Fulham have been very, very fortunate with injuries this season. And yes, we're lucky, and Slav has done very well at making the strikerless system so that if we don't have a striker, we have
a secondary
way of playing, basically. But had Fulham had some key injuries, maybe let's say Steph Joe or if Chris Martin had been out for the whole season and we were relying on Syriac, who has looked okay in bursts, but I can see that maybe people were seeing worst case scenario and thinking we haven't got enough squad depth. And maybe next season, if we're still in the Championship, for example, we may not get so lucky. And I think that Fulham will have to have some more squad depth if they are really serious about maybe challenging for higher echelons of the playoffs / automatic promotion, because we might not get so lucky.
But then you get players sitting on the bench, and we're saying it to this point. Even now, with our small squad, we can't work a way to fit in all the players we want to be playing all the time. And we said it about Adoy earlier and Cabano, that they haven't got maybe the runs in the team that they've deserved, and that's with a small squad.
But for every Cabano, you have a Thanos Petsos who clearly Slav doesn't really rate, or we don't 100% know, because maybe he just hasn't had the opportunities. But when you make a signing, you're still making a punt, aren't you?
And a calculated punt.
Yes.
Guesstimate.
But for every Cabano, really great signing from an obscure country, and not really an obscure country, but you know what I mean, a signing we hadn't heard of, for every great one, there might be one that doesn't work out. We've got quite lucky.
No, I think that's not luck. I think the fact that most of these players have come off is due to the fact that they're well researched and and well documented.
I think the lack of injuries isn't necessarily down to luck.
Yeah,
the whole staff sort of background and setup that Slavisa brought in when he came in has clearly worked well. He must have implemented something so well and so critical in pre-season. It's lasted the whole season. I mean, I think I've heard that the dieting has changed massively at the club, what you can eat in the canteen and things like that. So I think a lot of the times you look at fitness and injuries isn't always down to just luck all the time. It's down to the system you have at your club. I mean, I know Wilshere did pick up an injury at the game at White Hart Lane, but he used to get injured every 5 seconds at Arsenal, and he lasted a full season at Bournemouth. So Bournemouth could just have a better setup behind the scenes than Arsenal do. So, and when you look at injuries, like the teams who were behind us chasing the playoff, they didn't really have any key injuries in the likes of Derby, Norwich, obviously Leeds.
Leeds lost their left back, didn't they? Charlie Taylor.
And he refused to play on Saturday anyway.
He's a good player, Charlie Taylor.
And so I think, we were just good enough to make the playoffs, and we know on our day, if we could play like that all the time, we would have got automatic promotion quite easily.
Yep. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think we've been really, really good with our injuries, and I think one of the players that we've spoken about over the past few weeks being injured quite consistently is Aite, who's missed around 15 games, but he's still weighed in with numerous goals and numerous assists, which, if anything, backs up the case that we've really, really researched our signings particularly well. And the only club that I can really think of over the past probably decade that have worked their transfers and their signings so well, and you can probably back me up here, Dom, is Sevilla. And they've smashed it the last probably 5, 6, 7 years in a row. All of their players have been very finely researched on a number of occasions by numerous scouts, and they've also had a statistical analysis done alongside them to make sure that they can play in the manager's side, play he wants them to play. And I think only one or maybe two of them over that course of that period have flopped, and for the majority of them, they've gone on to bigger and better things. And Sevilla are one of the most proficient clubs in terms of turning over money because of it.
Well, yeah, if you look at, they're always in the European places, and there's certain teams who've got into them in La Liga, then dropped out of them.
Yeah, I mean, you don't win 3 European Cups in a row by fluke, do you?
Yeah, and I mean, the Europa League has proved when English sides have gone into it, they have not just completely just walked it.
Yeah, definitely.
I know, obviously, when we were in it, we got straight to the final. But if you take the teams that have dropped back,
if you take other teams without our calibre,
yeah, I mean, so like Spurs, how many times have they been in the Europa League the last 5-10 years, right? Yeah. And they've just done nothing.
Well, we haven't produced a Champions League finalist for over 6 years now, so clearly not that good anymore, are we? Anyway, on to your next question now.
Indeed. Alex AJ Whiteford, this is a good one. Obviously, we want Fulham up, #Team Slav. However, if another team was to win the playoffs, which of the other three would you want it to be?
Huddersfield.
Yeah, Huddersfield.
Huddersfield for me.
Yeah, I'd go for Sheffield Wednesday, because it's nice to see a club of that stature back in
Reading, so we don't have to go back to the Medeski?
No.
Just for a personal level, I'd choose Reading. But yeah, I'd say Huddersfield. I like sort of seeing teams who haven't been in the top division for like ages, or who've never been in the top division, get into it. I think it's just nice to see. I don't like seeing teams, you could argue with Reading, who are a bit of a yo-yo team, you keep going in and out. Again, Wednesday would be nice. It's nice seeing like a sleeping giant, I don't really like
awakened.
Yeah, awakened. I don't really like the term sleeping giant, but it would be nice to see a big team back.
They are a big club, and you go there yesterday and you realise that it's a big stadium, big crowd, big atmosphere, and it could suit Premier League football, Hillsborough.
Everyone was very nice to us in Sheffield. Everyone was very pleasant. So Thank you, Sheffield Wednesday fans, for being pleasant. Apart from, there was one bloke in the left-hand side looking at the pitch who spent the entire time, making obscene gestures at the Fulham fans. I was like, stop it, watch the game. Like, as in turn around, you weird man.
Any more questions, Jack?
This one's from Alex at Pure Power, who we speak to a lot, but he says...
Regular questioner.
Yeah, good questioning. And he says, not strictly Fulham related, but who would make your championship team of the year? Which I thought was a good question and a good, talking point.
Yeah, really great talking point.
We could probably rattle over this for an entire episode, couldn't we?
We have to keep it in check. But Dom?
I think the first player who has to go in for me is Chris Wood. I know I know who scored didn't get him in because maybe he doesn't contribute massively overall, but I think you can't have a team of a year without having the league's top goal scorer, and I think that makes literally no sense.
Yeah, agreed.
So obviously I put Anthony Knockaert in.
Yep.
I think he has to go in. I'm not making exactly a whole team. I'm just naming, I think, who have been the best players in the entire
Yeah, I think
league.
that's the best way of doing this. We don't have to
that's fine.
quite strictly go.
Tom Kearney from Fulham. I was trying to pick as many non-Fulham players as I could, but I think he's the only Fulham player who I think would definitely get into it.
Aaron Moy?
Yeah, I think he'd be the one in the centre alongside Tom Kearney.
Pontus Jansson at centre-back, I
No.
think.
This is like a really odd thing that everyone's got this Janssen thing in their heads. If we're going to put a centre back in that's kind of a bit rogue, my shout would be Harley Dean, who's had an absolutely wonderful season for Brentford, and I hate the man. And I just thought he was rubbish, but he's been unbelievable for Brentford this year.
And would you put any of the Brighton centre backs in?
I put Lewis Dunk in.
Yeah, we like Lewis Dunk. We've tried to sign him about 1 million times, so we probably have to stick him in. Who would you put in goal is always a good question.
Well, I think the popular answer maybe before yesterday would be people saying David Stockdale. Obviously, yesterday's was an absolute clanger.
Yeah, well, he had a howler against Norwich. Obviously, no fault of his own, but that was a bit of a bad one as well. But Carl Darlow has saved Newcastle on many, many occasions this year. He's been particularly good.
Rob Green for Leeds has been very impressive as well.
He got rounded by Ryan Tunnicliffe. You can't have him in.
And Tunnicliffe stops.
Yeah.
He doesn't even hit it straight away. He stops and then hits it in.
I think Alex Smithies, if Alex Smithies hadn't played out of his skin a lot, then Rangers would have been relegated.
Yeah, that was my...
No love for Alex Smithies.
No, but Smithies is sort of what Bettinelli was to us in the first season we went down. If he was in our team, I'd say we would be pretty much a lot higher in the playoffs because I think Smithies, not Fulham fans won't like it, but I think he's better than both Button and Bettinelli.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I totally agree.
Going Smithies then?
I think I'd put Smithies in.
I think he'd be
I think going for a goalkeeper at the top of the league is
easy.
It's too easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
If your defence have been that good, then you haven't really had to do things. Do you know who else has actually been quite good? Ali Al-Habsi for Reading.
except
It's
for
a wonder save against Brighton.
Oh, it's just unbelievable stop.
until it comes to Martin's free kick.
Okay, yeah, but but have you seen his save from the weekend?
Yeah.
It's absolutely obscene. If you haven't seen it, he palms this effort onto the bar out of absolutely nowhere. It's well worth looking at the Reading highlights just for that and Cauley Woodrow's header.
And some terrible bundles into the net from Reading.
Oh, yeah, Reading scored 4 absolutely awful goals.
Disgusting.
We need another centre back, right back, a left back, and a left mid.
Well, Ryan Sessegnon's
And
going to
what
stone
about
up for left
put
back.
Harley Dean in?
I refuse to put Ali Dean in.
Oh, but Harley Dean's been really good.
He's a tosser.
Yes, I know.
I've lined it up as a 4-2-3-1 right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Tammy Abraham's probably worth a shout, isn't
I
it?
thought...
Let's
Yeah.
go
Since when has
4-4-2
ever a
then.
team of the year done in a 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, we're cultural
I'm
here,
a
Dom.
purist.
We got Ben here, so I guess
It's
it
the
might have to
European team of the year.
All right, it's going to go 4-1-3-2 then.
Okay.
So we need a left winger.
be. Easton's Cabano.
Matt Ritchie has had a very good second half of the season for Newcastle.
Yeah, but see the thing is, my issue with Matt Ritchie is he should be that good.
Only thing up front, Jan Morgant.
No.
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 Although,
what about
if
Lascelles as a
anyone
centre-back?
listens to the Not the Top 20, there's a really interesting statistic about Morgan's chance. He scores really difficult chances all the time, and it's really, really weird. Like, all his goals come from like really difficult chances, and which is the sign of a good striker.
Well, he did get 7 and 7 during the month of April.
the hallmark of a good striker,
Yeah.
putting the ball in from a difficult angle.
Okay, centre back, right back, left back needed.
Matt Doherty and Yeardom of Barnsley are who scored.
Yadam is very good.
Oh, was it Yard? Sorry, I thought it was
Yeah,
Yeardom.
he used to play for Barnet
Yeah.
in the League Two like last year.
That is who scored statistical suggestions for left back
Yeah,
and
I
right
like
back
I
of the
like
I
season.
do
Doherty.
like Doherty.
Yeah.
That's a player I would like to
Go
see
for
at the
him.
Cottage.
Yeah, you can't put Scott Malone in there because it's in a defensive position.
No,
So.
just
The only one I'm surprised you haven't mentioned is your man.
Conor Horan.
Brilliant first half of the season. Hasn't really delivered since the turn of the year when he moved to Villa.
Yeah.
So I think he probably doesn't quite make the cut. Although I think he is still a wonderful footballer.
Henri Lansbury had a good year.
And the other one is Charlie Taylor, who had a good year until he stopped refusing to play for Leeds.
Why did he refuse to play?
I don't know.
Because Leeds are rubbish.
What about Lascelles from Newcastle? He's quite. I've liked his performances as centre back. Again, a bit of a passion merchant, but is an assured player.
Yeah, again, it's just when it comes to defensive-minded players, and I like to find them from the lower sort of teams in the league, but there's no issue I would have with Jamal Lascelles going in at centre half.
Dan Burn, Wigan's Player of the Year.
When I saw that, I literally just like that is literally why I got relegated.
Yeah, exactly. If your Player of the Year is a centre back when you shipped that many goals,
And it's Dan Burn.
you're getting relegated.
It was over 60% for Dan Burn, Player of the Year.
Passion merchant.
So who are we missing now?
Centre back and a right back.
Right, I don't really. When it comes to the fullbacks, it's sort of quite hard because it depends what you're looking for out of these fullbacks. So you're looking for someone who's chipped in like Scott Malone with all of his goals and assists going forward, or you're looking for the one who's been
I like Brighton's right
sensibly
back
defensively.
because he's good.
Bruno.
going
Bruno,
forward
yeah,
and
I might have
decent
I think
going back
Bruno
as
could
well.
be given it.
Bruno's a good shout.
Bruno. Okay, so the Fulhamish team of the year for the Championship is Chris Wood, Tammy Abraham, Matt Ritchie, TC10, Aaron Moy, Anthony Knockaert, Matt Doherty,
Yeah.
Lewis Dunk, Jamal Lascelles, Bruno, and Alex Smithies.
Good. Well done,
Sound.
everyone. Well done.
I think there's time for one last question, Jack.
Our last question in the phone bag is from JT Gwadz, or Gwadzilla on Twitter, who
You
says,
have butchered his name.
well, can you say it? GWOZDZILAA. Gwadzilla.
What?
Just call him Gwads.
Gwadz fella.
G-man.
He says, I'd love your perspective on the role that the Khans have played this season. Face their share of criticism. How much credit should they be getting?
I think it comes down to, almost certainly comes down to the Khans in one way or another. It comes back to them because obviously the investment comes from Shahid and the scouting and the player development and all that goes with it comes from Tony. Yes, at the start, having this both boxes ticked methodology of, getting players in is incredibly frustrating because you sort of just want to sign a player and be gone with it. But this fine-tooth comb approach has really helped us on the pitch, and the redevelopment of the academy coming from Shahid's own pocket is really going to help us in the long-term future. And we talked a few podcasts back. I don't know if you will have the clip on file, Sammy, but it's just a case of us saying that a massive win for us nowadays is having a transfer go out where we make a huge amount of money on it. And we're starting to see them happen now. And we'll probably see it happen in a couple of years with Sessegnon, as much as it pains us to say it. But I think our progression this year is twofold. Firstly, it's down to the Khans and what they've done for us in terms of getting the players in and getting the right ones in that play the right way for the right man, which obviously is Slavisa. And you can get all the players in you want, but you need someone to mould minds, and Slavisa is that moulder of minds, and he knows how he wants to play football, and his record speaks for itself. There are comparisons going around on Twitter now of our last 15 games of this season versus Watford's 15 games when he got them promoted, and they are almost identical. The guy knows what he's doing on the pitch, and the Khans know what they're doing off the pitch, and I think this constant barracking of them not investing enough and not wanting club to move forward is completely unjust and basically bollocks.
I think a lot of that has slowed down in recent months, and I think that's credit to the fan base to change their opinion, but mostly it's credit to the Khans. I think a very sensible move was appointing Tony Khan. I don't really know what job role they're calling it, chief of football, god of football, whatever he wants to call himself. Yeah, sorry. But he's added a public presence to the Khan's influence. And you see the problem of, these lots of foreign investors come in. You see the Venkeys at Blackburn, and they got relegated to League One, the first Premier League champions to ever play in the third division.
For Wales at Forest.
Yeah, and the Venkeys haven't spoken to the media. They haven't spoken to the lead correspondent for sport at BBC Lancashire since 2010.
It's madness that those clubs are, and the same happened at Leyton Orient, the same's happening at Coventry City. There's a lot of proud old football clubs being absolutely run into the ground, and it's a disgrace.
It's the distance between the fans and their owners, because these owners sit in some office tower somewhere and are too distant. Yet Tony is bridging that gap between his father, who's clearly a very busy man. He owns two major sporting clubs, and obviously he has lots of businesses in the automotive industry. And Tony's there as the public face of it. And Jack showed me the Instagram yesterday that he posted after the Brentford game. And yeah, it might have been a tad dramatic, but you know, he's going on there saying it's the greatest day of my life, and that's nice to see.
Well, it must be. Like, he's worked so hard to get us where we are now.
Yeah.
And the amount of abuse he got on the transfer deadline day in August was horrible. It was quite eye-opening, actually. Some of the people you think you would never come out of their mouths was popping off on Twitter, really. But
it's very easy to have a go against the rich man, and especially the rich man's son.
Yeah. It's going to be an even better day of his life when we win the playoff final, isn't it? So
I reckon he's going to streak.
I hope so.
Imagine if he led the fans in a pitch invasion. Imagine the skis.
Crowd surfing along the Wembley pitch. Dom, any thoughts on the credit that the Khans?
He's had a lot of stick ever since he came in 13-14, and the current, I wouldn't say demise of Fulham. It was sort of already written in stone, really.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Because the amount of obviously Alfred was saying up, he wasn't investing at all. So yeah, I think Khan got a lot of unfair criticism, and I mean, you take obviously what Tony Khan's done this season has been brilliant. Because yes, Slavisa has done really well, but all the money that Slavisa has done, these are all paid by Khan. Khan has to employ them. And also, you have to look at how much Shay Khan invested in Moxwell Park, that total redevelopment of our training facilities. And we're seeing a lot of what Hugh Jennings did when he came in, or not when he even came in, even what happened when Coleman was still manager, where we decided we need to improve our youth system. And we've got a lot of players who've come for our youth system now who are playing in decent level leagues, and that just didn't happen previously. And so I think, although that wasn't obviously down to Khan, that was down to Alfred under Coleman, I think this season the Khans have been exceptional, really.
Yeah, we talked about Forgotten Fulham earlier on this year as well, and a lot of those players have disappeared off the face of the earth. You look at a lot of the players that are playing now up and down the leagues, and quite a few of them have come through our academy. So if anything, that's just basically like bearing fruit that we are doing the right thing. And obviously we've had Pat Roberts come through as well and go for some big money, and unfortunately we didn't get much, if any, money for Moussa Dembele, but hey, everything's is getting some.
And should we go back up, unlike our last time in the Premier League, where actually for much of the 13 years we relied on journeymen, and to a great deal of success at some points. You know, the Europa League team was full of journeymen. But I think if we did go back up this time, it would be a very different Fulham side and set up to the one we saw in the Premier League last time, one made up of lots of fruits of our own labour. A very youth-focused side, and I don't think it's going to be the same Fulham that many teams saw
a lot of our signings
in the previous era.
Yeah, a lot of our signings in August and then in January were younger, and we're obviously going to get something out of most of them. I'd be surprised if we don't get something out of the likes of Cabano, and hopefully if we get Piazon in on a permanent, like, we can get something out of him as well. I also think that, like, I read back to Dom's point about our fired, I read a journalist basically saying that if you don't keep your car well looked after, a lot of parts are going to go wrong at the same time, and it's going to take you a lot of time to get that car back up and running. And that's how it felt with Fulham. Like, it wasn't invested in for years. We weren't getting in younger players. We were signing journeymen. Like, the midfield partnership of Karagounis and Sidwell was just laughable.
Hey, that Axis was solid.
It was. It's about solid as jelly.
And you signed Neon Lights in Dimitar Berbatov.
and now we're back with a good team after some years of trying to put everything right and a big amount of investment. So I'm fully on the Khan.
Well, even you compare it to last season, we had a midfield pivot at times with Jamie O'Hara and Ryan Tunnicliffe, and now we've got Kevin McDonald and Stefan Johansson. I love Tunnicliffe, but that isn't going to get you anywhere above
the fattest
mid-table.
midfield pairing in the world.
That's really mean. Ryan Tunnicliffe has a hell of an engine.
True though.
Well, the future is bright, and the immediate future is very bright as well, because we have a playoff campaign to come up in the next few weeks. Make sure you're listening to Thursday's special Fulhamish Extra, as we'll do an in-depth preview of the playoffs and the Fulham versus Reading game, the first leg at Craven Cottage, and then we'll be back for a normal, regular podcast this time next week with a review of the first leg against Reading and with a nod forward to that second leg at the Medeski Stadium.
Indeed. We've one last admin shout out. We a Fulham fan got on the old Sport Bible and Lad Bibles today with quite an amusing tweet. So Ivan Berry fan on Twitter at Bettinelli, but with an X instead of an E. I don't know how to describe it elsewhere. Says, hate when girls put who's up on their Snapchat story. Newcastle and Brighton are confirmed and the playoffs haven't started yet. Which I really did enjoy, and it went viral. So shouts out to a Fulham fan going viral today.
His profile picture is Marcus Bettinelli with Ivan Berry, pitch announcer Ivan Berry's face photoshopped onto it. If this guy that is running the Twitter account is listening, I actually sent that picture to Ivan and said, saw this on the internet, mate, not sure what to think. He was a big fan of it. He likes it.
Ivan loves you, mate.
Ivan's a big fan. I think he thinks he's made it now.
Yeah,
He's got a fan account.
I've got a fan.
You do. You have many fans.
Shout out George Rossiter.
People keep coming up to me and telling me that I'm a great bloke. I've really enjoyed that.
Back to your secretarial duties for a minute, though. Bring you back down to earth. Have you got a title for today's podcast, please?
I think we'll have to give the old nod to Farrell, especially when he's not here, and use his royalty points required.
It was a key point on today's show, I think, the debate over loyalty points. So
royalty points required it is.
Very nice. Actually took me a few minutes to get that when you told me that one earlier. I was being a bit slow.
Well, it's the day after the night before, isn't it?
It is indeed. So, Fulhamish will return on Thursday. Make sure you're subscribed and you'll get that into your feed as a extra gift from us to you in your podcasting ears this week. And the rest of us will be back on Monday after the Reading game. Hopefully, we will be celebrating a Fulham victory and we'll be feeling comfortable ahead of that second leg. So,
indeed.
Jack, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sammy.
Ben, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sammy.
And Dom, thank you very much. Congrats again. Uni is over for you.
Yay.
Yeah, no problem as always.
Toodles.